I think you're right on it. What we learned today was that the Biden camp, they definitely have tentacles everywhere. I mean, let's just call it what it
Yeah.
is. This nonsense
Yeah.
in New York, this was nothing more than an extension of the Biden camp. And I think today the Dems showed their true colors. If they are allowed to get away with this, never again in the United States will we be able to have a populist candidate for
Yeah.
president. And this is bigger than Donald Trump. This is
Yes.
much bigger than Donald Trump. It has to do with your right, our viewers' right, and my right to vote for who we want to be president of the United States.
Absolutely. And if you look at presidents starting at Jimmy Carter, going all the way to Obama, 10 wars, no charges. If you look at Donald Trump, 0 major new wars started, and I think total 90 something charges so far. It seems like that there's a shadow government that feeds the military industrial complex, and that the executive branch to some extent is not as powerful as the founders intended for it to be in Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution, executive powers. And that's really sad. It seems like that ties into part of this. Trump was said, and he even walked into North Korea to settle a dispute with the dictator there. Like, how amazing is it that he's trying to have peace, and the president that's the most peaceful, sadly, is the most persecuted?
Well, oftentimes it takes somebody with a new way of thinking to bring about change. And that's exactly what Donald Trump during his administration showed each and every one of us. I don't care if you're talking about the Middle East or you're talking about North Korea. These were things that everybody said you can't do, can't be done. Yet he made extreme progress, if not outright achieve peace among different nations.
That's true. Yeah. And I believe he will be reelected. I hope that Schedule F, I believe that's the name of it, that it can be used correctly, because the perverse incentive of government employees is to expand the government so they can get more money and the contractors can get more money. But we need to make it way easier to fire government employees. There's so many incompetent government employees.
I would agree with that.
But we'll take a look at this story here. The Trump campaign, let me move me or us so we can read the headline. They get an immediate avalanche of cash, and Trump's website crashed, the donation website, which is pretty amazing. A tech entrepreneur is just donated $300,000 to President Trump, and Team Trump on X posted website back online after it going down with so many people donating. Lee Zeldin secured a $800,000 donation from someone for Trump. So that's great to hear that
Yeah,
the
that was
money
the one
is
I was
coming in.
mentioning. I thought I heard $800,000. That has to be something that feels good in the checking account for the Republicans.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have even CNN's legal analysts. I mean, they're still liberal. They have a new stakeholder who's a Trump supporter. He's a minority stakeholder, but I mean, they're even saying this is not fair. And what this is going to come down to is, I believe the judge is going to either jail Trump or put him on house arrest so he can't actually campaign. And I heard an analyst say that a judge like this, his ultimate fantasy might be to jail Trump, like a power trip fantasy. But at the least, we might see Trump being placed under house arrest where he can't campaign. And that is going to, I think, to some extent, hurt his campaign. Voter sentiment's probably mostly set in already, but there might be a few independents that are still thinking, what can Trump do for me if he's reelected? So you're talking about the Supreme Court intervening. Hopefully they will before that.
Sure. Yeah, I would say this. I'm not one that takes any joy in saying I was right or whatever, but this is something I've been talking with my viewers about on my program, and that is, I said all along he was probably going to be convicted just because of the makeup of the jury. You have an 88% Democratic type of place that they judge shop. Well, this was forum shopping, and that's exactly what happened. And now that they got that conviction, to your point, what could happen is you talk about an outrage and making people upset. What what is probably going to happen is he will probably be put in jail. That would not surprise me at all, if you can believe that. A former president of the United States actually incarcerated or on home confinement. And then think of this: days before the first presidential debate, you're going to have a situation where we likely will have a former president on probation. He may have to check in with a PO officer before
Yeah.
he's able to go to any particular state. And get this: when you're a convicted felon in many states, you can't even vote. You cannot own a gun. There are many restrictions, unfortunately, that former President Donald Trump is going to be under. It's just absolutely a sickening event that's happened today.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have Marilyn here saying, I really believe the jurors were bought and paid for, or maybe they were influenced. It's hard to say. Thankfully, you mentioned all those restrictions. The Constitution does prevent felons from running for a lot of offices, but interestingly, they never prevented a felon from running for president because they feared this weaponization. And a lot of the founding fathers were felons back in England, or the equivalent of what we would have, a felon today. And yeah, it's very sad. We'll see exactly what happens here with the voting and how people react to this.